Greetings from Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri. I came to give this talk, which is for 18 minutes, and I flew 20 hours to do that. I was born here, and I went to college here. After that, I went to United States, and I got my master's degree there, and I came back here, and I lived here for 3 years, teaching at what is now Sogang University. And then I got married and went back to the United States, and I've been living there for over 40 years. And during those decades, my motherland, Korea, made enormous advances, especially economically and technologically, dazzling advance, and jumped from third world country to world's top 10 economic power. I'm very proud of my country, but there are some things that remain the same. Many of them are positive and some of them are not so positive. And one of the things that I notice every time I come here is how much Korea is still a Confucian country. It is considered one of the 4 strongest Confucian countries in the world, along with Taiwan and Vietnam and Singapore. And I see this in many, many ways. And one of the most interesting ways I can tell is in the language they use. In the Confucian language, you show respect to the other people, and you lower yourself, humble yourself. And this is seen in writers, Korean writers, when they talk about their work. They say, oh, my writing, this is 졸고. 졸 means very bad quality. 고 means manuscript. And so, in other words, they are saying, my work is a piece of crap. And so, even though I lived in the United States a long time, I still retain Confucian values, and I am a Confucian person at heart. And when I talk about my writing, I will say, I will now talk about my piece of crap. I don't want you to read this because this is bad. And before I begin to talk about more things, let me just tell you briefly what is in the book. My college best friend, when she read this book, when it was a manuscript, she said, I hope it will never be published. This is true. It hurt me deeply, but she wanted me to not talk about some things that are in the book. And the story begins like this. A man and his wife, very much in love with each other, Romeo and Juliet type. For 15 years, they've been living happily, but unfortunately, he is the only boy in his family for the 3rd generation, 3대 독자, which meant he needed to have a male child. And other families too, every family needed to have a male child because the Confucian society is built upon male bloodline. And so this loving couple finds themselves having to invite a woman to come into the house and bear them a son or more than one son. They could have had the husband keep a mistress outside the home, in which case when male children are born, they bring the boys into the house and the wife raises them. But in this case, which is autobiographical material, I wrote it first as a memoir and now it's a novel. And my parents invited this woman to come into the house, and the book begins with this scene. And my father just cannot bear the thought of leaving his wife in one room and going into another room 3 feet away with a new woman. and do what it takes to produce a male child. And so at the last minute, he gets this brilliant idea. He says to both women, let's sleep together. The three of us sleep together. Maybe some of you may be thinking, oh, something kinky is going on here. It was not like that. They had their clothes on, and they were simply together, and a dramatic thing happens. The wife collapses from the trauma and the emotional strain, and she becomes bedridden. And the child, the daughter, they have this daughter, 5 years old, and that's based on me, listens to neighbor women come and pick up the woman and spoon feed the medicine, and they all say, oh, that girl, if she had been a boy, this would not have happened. So she's very sad. But luckily, the Korean War broke out. This is Mina, the daughter character based on me, and that's my mom. And next minute, we are having a war. North Korea invaded. And so we joined a group like this. Some people had mattresses over their heads when they were fleeing from Seoul. And, but I said, luckily, the war broke out earlier. That's because for Mina, the 5-year-old, the 3 years of Korean War is the happiest time. How could a war be happiest time? Because adults were all worried about the war. How many people got killed every day? They did not pay attention to her, and they did not say, you should have been a boy. So, and she met new friends, and her cousin came to live with her. The older one is me, and the other is my cousin, 5 years old. I'm 8. And we met new friends, and one of them was a boy, and I think he loved me very much. Because, you know why? Because he would catch these grasshoppers and string them in these weed stems, and he would present them all to me to take them home and roast for my snack. Have you eaten roasted grasshoppers? Oh, delicious. You don't know what you're missing. So that's the beginning story, and my readers always ask 3 questions. And the first question they ask is, do these things still happen? What they mean by that is, do men live with 2 hot chicks in the same house now in the modern day? And I say no. Too bad for the guys. They don't do that anymore. Maybe for the women too. I don't want to be gender biased here. And no, that doesn't happen anymore. But the patriarchal male values still continue very strong in Korea. And I give you a couple of numbers. In 1994 alone, after 1970s, the medical technology of detecting the sex of the unborn baby became available. And also about that same time, Koreans decided to limit the number of children to 2 per family for economic and other reasons. And so when they did that, the pressure was on. If they were going to have 2 children, they wanted to make sure one of them would be a boy. And so they fully took advantage of the medical technology to detect the sex of the baby. And in 1994 alone, 30,000 female children conceived were prevented from birth. And I show you, here's a chart that shows each year how many girl babies were prevented from being born. 1994 is not the year that has the highest number. The highest number shows in 1990, which is the year of the horse. This shows the years of the horse sign, and that is particularly bad for girls because the male kinds of personality traits were not supposed to be good for girls who would later become wives. And so the rate of girl children being prevented from birth rose even higher during horse year. And guess what year this is? The year of the horse. But the positive side of this is the son preference rate has gone down. 2007 study shows that it has been cut by 75%. Not like in China and India where the son preference is still raging and the boy sex ratio at birth is for 112 boys to 100 now in China. But in Korea, it is now down to 107 boys to 100 girls. And that is very close to the norm. The norm that they try to strive for is 104 or 105 to 100 girls. But even if it got cut down by 99%, it's not been cut down by 99% yet from the ratio. But even if it gets cut down by 99% and only 1% of the son preference remains, 1% of the 30,000 girls of 1994 who didn't get born is 300 girls. 300 girls a year. That's still almost one girl child per day. What's wrong with these numbers? What's wrong with them is they tend to stay in our heads or they go out our ears soon after we hear these numbers. And I wanted to do something about that. So I got a cake and got a candle for 20. And the girls, 30,000 girls who did not get born in 1994, they would turn 20 this year. This is their 20th birthday, and they are not here. And I wanted to bring this image down into our hearts to remember them. But along with the reduction of son preference, there have been enormous progress toward equality of men and women in Korea. The Family Act reform of 1989 gave a lot of rights to women. Women can inherit husbands' properties ahead of the mothers-in-law. Mothers-in-law used to have more rights. And women can have joint custody in the divorce law, and the labor law was reformed, and women now get very generous maternity leaves, etc. And so along with these positive changes they made, we have first female president. South Korea beat United States in having the first female president. The top student in the military academy graduating last year was a woman, and the year before that also. And here are 40%, these are college graduates graduating. There are more women graduating from colleges now than males. And 40% of the judicial trainees are females. These are all excellent signs. However, there are still a lot of work to be done. For example, working women in Korea have tough time climbing up to the CEO positions and legislative positions. And the percentage for that, those who achieve that level, is only 5%. Even Egypt shows 10%, Japan and Turkey shows 9%, and Mexico 24%. And Canada 33%, UK 34%, Russia 37%, United States 45%. So Korea is still at the bottom in terms of giving equal opportunities in workplaces to women. And another, this shows, this is from 2013 article in The Economist. And according to that, the best places in the world for working women to live are New Zealand and Nordic countries, Sweden and Finland. The worst, Japan and South Korea. So they have a little more work to do. And even away from these figures, there are common occurrences that show that there's male values still continuing on. For example, the Chuseok during the Korean Thanksgiving, at least half of the Seoul population migrate down to the countryside to the male members' ancestral sites to offer ancestral worship ceremonies. And women all go to their husbands' ancestral sites, not their own native parents' sites. And they labor intensely for 3-4 days preparing food. And men, generally, they engage in watching sports on TV. And then when the food is ready, they pour wine and light the incense and bow, and this is the bowing. I participated in this outdoor ancestor worship ceremony in October last year. This was the ceremony offered in honor of my biological father. And I was giving a talk similar to this, and I was talking about how proud I was about the first female president becoming the president. And one of the ladies, this was in California, and one young lady looking to be in her 20s and 30s, she said, "Oh, I hate it. I hate that the woman who had never been married and had no experience of running a family, how can she run a family?" Well, it was a very gender-biased remark, and she didn't even seem to realize how gender-biased that is. And so young generation seems to, they say, "Oh, we're not like the parents' generation, not like grandparents' generation." But in their everyday activities and their talks, the gender bias, they seem to have inherited it subconsciously. And another common occurrence is now men and women in Korea, they all say, "Oh, we are done with son preference. We don't have that anymore. We have daughter preference. We love daughters." Not realizing that's the other side of the same coin. That's sex bias. What I would like to say is, can we just love our children for who they are, human beings, not girls or boys? And to go back to the birthday cake, 2 days ago, I organized an event. It was not a religious or political event. It was simply a time to get together and remember those 30,000 girls who could have lived. They could have had his 20th birthday this year, and they're not here. And I am thinking, by making the statistics in the head travel down to our hearts. And as we hold these presence of these girls and not let them go, but live with us in spirit, that will enable us to take proactive action, to go for legislative and changes and make the world a better place. If we can do that, I feel like these 30,000 and more girls, because more girls were not born because of son preference, their lives would not have been lost for nothing. Their lives will have contributed to the betterment of our current society all over the world. In India and China, they need such reform very badly, much more than Koreans do. Thank you very much.